Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things heart of Midlothian. Join you as always with myself, Ewan Ramsey, and Alan Scrumger. And we do hope you're all good and well. Today's episode, it's probably much what you would expect. We're obviously going to talk a bit about the uh, clash with Hamilton in the Scottish Cup, where we came out 2-0 victors, which puts us obviously into the quarter final. With that being said as well, we're also going to have a bit of a talk about the quarter final draw because I'm sure we're all happy about that result. The other things we will also touch on as well is the academy. We've not touched a bit on that for quite a while now, but some news broke out just last week, which we will touch upon as well. And finally, we will end with a preview to the Motherwell game on Sunday. So that's going to be your podcast for this morning, afternoon, or evening. So yeah, we do hope you enjoy. And as always, guys, if you aren't subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast yet via our YouTube, please think about subscribing and smash the like button as always. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, all links will be in the description and on screen as well. So please check those out. So, Alan, as I said at the start, we travelled through to Hamilton just on the Friday there, and they came out on top with a 2-0 win. I think we can start off with the team as well. You said yourself before the actual game, it was quite a strong was it starting lineup. Something which you were quite happy to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought he was going to go a bit more kind of rotation than he did.
Hmm.
I thought that, well, I mean, people can listen back to the last episode. I thought the likes of Nathaniel Atkinson would get a game,
Hmm.
but we saw Michael Smith come back. So yeah, no, it was a lot more stronger than I was expecting. We had
Mm-hmm.
um, Snodgrass played, Humphreys, Mackay, Gino. So
Mm-hmm.
all. I mean, obviously Humphreys has been, as you described him, a bit of an impact sub in the last few weeks. But it was nice to see him playing, getting a start. Did relatively well. Kingsley played as well. George Grant, another one that's been frustrated by lack of minutes played. But yeah, it was a strong team, and I think I wasn't surprised like when I thought about it because I was like, well, Robbie has been speaking about how important this game is. It feels like every week he's saying it's the most important game of the season. So
Mm-hmm.
and obviously if we're serious about doing something in a cup competition, then you've got to win every game. So he went strong and fair play, certainly worked out.
I no, no, man, exactly. I mean, one of the names you just was mentioned there, we talked about him just last week on the podcast as well, which was Nathaniel Atkinson. Obviously, you said that, like, if he doesn't start the game, then there might be a bit of a like not a foregone conclusion, but just more of a bit more confirmation that just whether Robbie's just not keen on him at all. He did, but they come on throughout the game as well, was it? And that got a few was a time on the like was it on the park as well, but even though he did play for a wee bit, does that kind of confirm, like, what you thought, like, sort of last week there, where, like, we might not see as much of him now in a Heart shirt, or?
Possibly, possibly. I mean, we were speaking just before we came on, and it kind of leads itself to quite well about it with Michael Smith,
Mm,
his situation with his contract. He gave an interview to the Evening News a couple of days ago, and he was basically saying, the club know what I want to do. He's our longest serving player, so it'd be good to keep him. He
mm,
wants to stay, but he's basically saying at the moment there's not been any communication, and I think he mentioned something about the fact that obviously in January it was so publicised that we were after Callum Patterson, who can play right back.
mm.
Whether you would play him there now, I don't know. But it seems as if they're sort of trying. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to phase Michael Smith out because I think he'll still get a new contract because I just think he's as dependable as it comes. But the club might want to look at somebody else. And if I said it during the episodes we did in January, the fact that we're targeting a player that can play right back when we've got a natural
Yeah.
right back who's younger considerably on the bench, it doesn't look good for Atkinson for whatever reason. But I hope I'm wrong. He's still a young guy, and I hope it's just something maybe behind the scenes that we don't know is maybe going on. But we'll wait and see. But he came on for the last 15 minutes, ran about for a bit, didn't do very much. But I think, sorry, I think what I was going to say as well about another player, I mentioned him earlier, George Grant. George Grant was talking about, wanting minutes and being frustrated about not getting in the team. George Grant started against Hamilton, and I thought he was man of the match until he went off with his injury or his little knock that he took. I thought he was brilliant in the game, and that's what you want to see, from a player getting given a chance. It's like, do something. When you
Yeah.
get on, do something. And okay, Atkinson only came on with 15 minutes to go, so there's only so much you can do in that time. But if I'm George Grant, I'm looking at the Motherwell game, going, well, I started against Hamilton, I played well, providing he's still fit. I'd be saying, well, give him a shot against Motherwell at least. Maybe even I don't know, maybe half an hour appearance off the bench or something like that. But yeah, look, I make no secret, I really like Nathaniel Atkinson, and I hope whatever this is that's going on is not a thing. But yeah, it's not. I'm not going to say writing's on the wall and he's going at the end of the season, but the plus side is if he does, he's under contract, so we'd get a fee for him. That would be the bright side if there's going to be a bright side.
I no, no, man, absolutely. I mean, just as you also mentioned to them there, so like he went off with an injury, George Grant, and on the what was it, other side of that as well, we got to see Cammy Devlin back in action as well, which was amazing to see. Um, like again, like I'm not saying that he didn't do much either, but like we were relatively in the control for the whole game, like sort of maybe like sort of minus the first 10 minutes of the second half, but still would like the team played was it well, and he's scored a goal as well. So again, like it was great to see him back as well. Do you think he'll probably be a sure thing? Was it was it was it part of the Motherwell game in terms of just slap him back into the starting lineup?
Definitely, definitely. George Grant went off with half an hour to go, and he brought on Alan Forrest, and I was a bit like, yeah. Then he brought on Devlin for Humphreys, which again made me go, hang on a
Yeah.
minute, we're only 1-0 and we're taking off a forward and bringing on a midfielder. But it to be fair, Hamilton were kind of like you say, that was in that little spell of time where they had a bit more of the ball and were trying to do things. So Devlin just came in and just shut it down, which was exactly what he was obviously told to do. And his goal was the most Cammy Devlin of Cammy Devlin goals you're ever
Right.
going to see in your life.
Just a leg just going like flapping about everywhere, like literally.
He literally like slide tackled it into the net almost. But I love him. Yeah, it was great. And we've said it before about the Snodgrass and Devlin midfield is just, you just feel safe when it's Snodgrass and Devlin in midfield. I liked Snodgrass and Grant, to be fair, but
Aye.
I think they're quite similar in how they play, whereas Devlin's just your little terrier. So yeah, no, as I say, it's just nice to see the two of them in the midfield together.
Oh mate, like Snodgrass would keep me safe for those massive fucking fights as well. Whoa! Like, but saying that as well, like like he was the captain was a part of that game a game as well, and yeah, was it like he seemed to just was it a slide in? Was it in to the role like sort of like was it like as if he'd been like well the captain was it since he started again like I do kind of have to eat my own words as well as like in the sense that obviously like in terms of a longer term option like that was my only sort of was it sort of was it talked about him, but like yeah, um, could you argue that he's like so far this season since he's was it came in to the team? Would you argue that he's probably been one of our sort of I don't know if like one of our best players is a strong word, but like in terms of consistency, do you see like he's up there?
I think so. I think as well, it's you often like for a player we've not even mentioned, a player that wasn't involved,
Hmm.
Shankland. I thought we missed him massively against Hamilton. I'm not going to lie. I know obviously it was a comfortable victory, but you could tell that the forward line just didn't have that same like dynamic to it because
Hmm.
Shankland is just the way he drops deep and comes in. And I think Snodgrass is exactly the same. You know, when you can tell how good a player is and how influential they are when they're not in the team. And we've seen games this season where Snodgrass isn't involved, and then we see him when he is involved,
Hmm.
and it's night and day. And I mean, like, you know, I've said this many times. I've yet to see Robert Snodgrass play a game in football boots because he just wears his slippers every single week. And for a guy who's 35 years old, he's strolling around the pitch like he owns every single one of them.
Ah,
And I was worried because of the Astro for Hamilton. I thought, oh God, here we go again. But yeah, he coped. He played the full 90 and bossed it yet again.
absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And again, was it like his team they're going through like was it the and the entire squad one by one, but obviously like as well like sort of Humphreys was it got the first goal. It was a well was it was it taken goal like from like was it quite a tight angle. Again it's something that I kind of thought throughout the weekend there. Now, for all as much as I love to see him play great and to score goals, like on a more like like consistent sort of was it, basis now. As much as I love to see it, there's a part of me that kind of wants him to play shite so that he stays here. Because again, you can almost kind of see it now where, with Sean Maloney, the new was a manager of Wigan now. Like he's had an insight into Scottish football. Was as a coach now. Um, you can almost see it. Like was it happening again now, and more for like for yourself as well. Because the was it the Jimmy Dunn was it syndrome like would just come roaring back as such. But I guess what my question is, do you think it's like maybe a bit like sort of foregone conclusion that we're possibly not going to see him in the next season?
Don't know. I don't know. And I'm like you. I don't like I love him. I love him scoring goals. I love his song.
Mm.
I just love the man. Um, and yeah, it was another weak foot finish. We've not even spoken about that. But yeah, I think we're starting to get to that point where it's like this guy could go back down to Wigan and have an impact.
Mm.
Like we saw with Sims when he came up, and obviously there was always that indication that Sims was never going to be a permanent member of our squad because he just looked far too good for that level. And he obviously started in the recent Merseyside derby for Everton, which shows you how highly thought of he is by them.
Mm.
Humphreys is obviously of a different level, different kind of player, but Wigan aren't Everton. Wigan could probably use him, and I think a fully confident Humphreys could be an asset for them. But I think the biggest thing, and kind of where I'm sort of hanging my hopes on, is that Robbie Nielsen has said repeatedly that we like him. We'd like him to stay if we can, and obviously he's going to say that. He's not going to come out in the media and go, "Nah, we've got no chance." But
Mm.
Wigan, I think Wigan have some off the field financial difficulties at the moment. Colo Torre lasted about 28 days or something in the manager's job, and
What a
Salah.
wonderful human being, eh?
Was waiting for
Of course.
that. But aye, so no, listen, to cut the long story short, I adore Stevie Humphries, and the crowd at Hamilton, again, haven't even touched on them, but 3,700 travelling Hearts fans, the biggest attendance or the biggest away attendance at a Hamilton fixture, which is massive, to be fair.
Oh, and folk are hating on that, eh? All the fans all around are hating on it, eh?
But do you know what? And this is going to send me down a totally different rabbit hole that I
No,
didn't
no,
really
that's
want
all
to
right.
go down, but fuck it, let's go there. Um, I, it sounds kind of weird and it's not probably the right way of saying it, but do you know what? There's something like when you see like opposition fans on social media like having a rant about Hearts or and I'm talking Hibs, Motherwell, Aberdeen, all of the above and others having a rant about Hearts, and I'm like, you're rattled. You are rattled, and it's quite sweet. I quite like it.
Oh
it
yeah.
it's there's something sick that I'm like I feed off that. Like it's nice to just not be liked very much, and
Oh
it's like,
yeah,
do you know
no, no,
what?
man, 100%.
Like the whole like attendance FC thing is hilarious. um,
It's
but
banging
yeah,
it.
and it's brilliant. But listen, the Hearts fans at Hamilton were absolutely brilliant
Top
again.
notch.
The ultras again, unbelievable. And yeah, hopefully they can roar us forward in our next cup tie because I think we might need them. But yeah, just Davy Humphries, come on, lad. Fucking
Fucking
Wigan is a shithole. It's a shithole.
hearts as fuck it. Go on. Get the
We
contract
say
signed,
it,
son.
we say it every week, but
I know.
just hang about.
Aye, mate. Just hang about it. Well, I mean, to kind of bring this subject from the Hamilton game, still like sort of on the squad as such. It was announced last week that quite a few of the academy players are due to be let go. Like just like from the thing you sent me, Alan. What was it like? You have the lights of was it Aaron Darge? I was like Cammy Logan. It Aid? It was Adrian. Was it Dynam as well? And a few others have all to be let go at the end of the season and are free to look for new was the clubs as well. Um, when that news came out, I think I messaged you on the day as well. I don't know what it was. Like as much as everything on and off the pitch is going great, for some reason that didn't kind of sit well with me. Personally, like for all as much as like like we've like said this quite a lot throughout. Was it since we started the like this is like as well, and like in terms of trying to bring through young the talent and trying to like develop them and then hopefully was it like in the future to then was it to then was it spell them and then just like sort of keep that was a process going. But I don't know. It just seems like the academy has such as just like I think out of the whole thing in terms of what Hearts are, I think that's the only thing that's kind of been a bit of a letdown. Um, like I mean, it just yeah, like it just didn't particularly sit well with me when we have like I mean those five there. I mean, granted we've not seen a lot of them, but from what we like all of the tiny bits we saw and from the things that we heard about these players, like they seem to like sort of quite like sort of like the good like sort of up and the coming players. So where do you actually think this kind of lies, like in the sense that do you feel as if the academy as a whole isn't doing enough to try and like to like break players through, or do you feel as if Robbie in general just doesn't like maybe particularly like to take like sort of younger players on with in the like sort of in the academy or
I think it's a really, really interesting topic and a really interesting conversation, to be honest with you. I think to me, there's lots of things, and I agree with the majority of what you said. It didn't sit right with me either when I saw the story about the players leaving. And as you say, we've only seen little flashes of them or heard little things about them. And we were talking about a right back earlier on, and then Cammy Logan, who's a right back that was apparently quite highly rated, has obviously not progressed to the point where they feel he could be in the team, which is disappointing. Scott McGill, another one that we saw
mm,
quite frequently, little flashes from little appearances here and there, little 15, 20 minutes in games, and he looked okay. He looked tidy. Like, he didn't look like he stood out, but he looked tidy. Aaron Darge, again, heard a lot about him. Haven't seen him, but heard good things. Aiden Denham, another one, and they've all been playing for the B team in that league that they've been playing in this season.
mm,
And yeah, it's never nice, to hear about young players getting released. But the thing is, they've got some level of football behind them. I'm sure it won't be long until they find clubs to go to.
mm,
Um, there's others that we haven't even mentioned. There's Ewan Henderson and Connor Smith. Connor Smith loaned out to Hamilton. Those two haven't been offered contracts yet, but there hasn't been any word about whether they're going to be let go or not. But they're both out on loan just now, so it
mm.
might be they're waiting to see how they do on their loans and then bring them back in again. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The academy is the one thing, and I think, like, we were talking there about Hearts fans and how amazing they are and all that, and you want to be able to identify with players in your team. It's like, I'll use Connor Smith as an example. I'll use Finlay Pollock as an example. These are guys that have been at Hearts since they were probably about 9 or 10 years old, if not
Mm.
younger. And you go, like, Finlay Pollock's a Hearts fan. He's living the dream of a Hearts fan, like Harry Cochrane did before him, like David Templeton did before him, like Callum Patterson did before him. It's that's what fans in general love that. And I'm not
Yeah.
just talking Hearts fans, I'm talking football fans. You want to see a player that plays for your club, that
Mm.
loves it as much as you do. And I just, obviously, listen, I think the biggest thing for me, and it's not even related to the academy, it's kind of related to Robbie Nielsen in a way. I think the difference is the level of the first team has improved a lot in a short period of time. Some of our young players are maybe just not, those that have been released are maybe just deemed as not going to be capable of getting to that level, and there's nothing wrong with that, because, like, I use the example of, like, the Old Firm, and obviously I don't like to compare us to them, but you look at Celtic, you look at Rangers, they've got, big academies for the size of clubs that they are, and they don't have a lot of homegrown players, because, I mean, they do, but they're kind of on the fringes of the team. You don't really see them starting players every week. They throw them in here and there if they need to, or they've got an injury crisis or whatever. But other than that, Celtic and Rangers can afford to go out and spend millions of pounds on new players. So why do they need their academies? But we don't have that luxury. So I feel like we should be using the academy a bit more than we are. But again, the thing I'll say about Robbie Nielsen, we always say his heart's as fuck, and he's just a jambo through and through. And he's always spoken about young players and said, playing for Hearts is a privilege, and it's something that you have to earn. You're not just going to get put in because, well, you've won a competition and you're in the team. It's you have to earn the right to be in that squad, and there's something to be said for that. So yeah, as I say, it's never nice to see young players get released. It's a shame for them, but the way football is now and the way that we're going, I'll simply say, would Scott McGill get into the first team ahead of Keo Murtzoglu? Would he get in ahead of Peter Haring? You know, the answer is no. Like, okay, Keo Murtzoglu is not fantastic, but we paid a six-figure fee for him, and he's a senior player. As much as we like Scott McGill, or we might like him, there's that gap between the quality of these young players and the quality of the first team players, and that's not even starting first team players.
Yeah, true. And like, like I mean, through the point that you just made there. Like, I do agree with most of what you said. I mean, I think the only thing that I'll maybe kind of like sort of tried to was a counterpoint is, granted, I know that like if you're saying that, like, like if there's maybe just that gap in quality where, like, in terms of the team that we want to actually be, would you not argue that maybe like the reason to why that is that maybe they're not getting the like the time and the chance to actually prove themselves that they can do.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. And I mean, a lot of our young loan player, like our young players, go out on loan and they go to the Championship or they go to League One or whatever.
Hmm.
And you kind of, it's difficult because, we've seen, again, I'll use Ewan Henderson as an example. He's been loaned out multiple times. He comes back, he shows little flashes, but he's never, okay, he's not maybe not given a consistent run in the team, but when he's played, you go, yeah, there's a player in there, but not for our level. So it's I think what you'd need is you need to get to a point where Hearts are loaning players to like Motherwell, Kilmarnock, teams at the bottom end of the Premiership, and saying, right, you know what, if you're good enough to play in the Premier League, go and play for a team where maybe the expectations are not as high as they are at Hearts in terms of league positions. And if you're capable of playing in the Premier League at that level, then we have an opportunity to use you in the Hearts team. But it's, at least that's how it works in England. Obviously, the English pyramid is huge compared to Scotland. So it's certainly an area that needs to be addressed. I know that last year they made some shuffles in terms of coaching staff at the academy. So they're clearly trying to do something.
Hmm.
But the nature of academies and the nature of young players is that we might not see the results of it until, 3 years from now when the next group of young players come through. But I've noticed as well, and it's not just Hearts, again, this is another thing. A lot of like the teams down south, your big teams down south, are coming and looking at Scottish academies and taking players when they're 15, 16, before they've even
Yeah.
got that professional contract. So that's something like we lost a guy to Aston Villa. His name escapes me. There's a guy that went down to Liverpool, that Doy, what's his name? The winger, the little nippy Scottish winger. He's at Liverpool now. I can't mind his name. It's gone completely out of my head. But that's kind of what we're up against. And like if you've got a very talented 15-year-old or a very talented 16-year-old that's clearly got talent, you know, there needs to be that pathway to say you don't need to go to Liverpool, you don't need to go to Aston Villa, you don't need to go down south and chase that because we can give you it here. And right now, I don't really know if we have that, and that's the bigger issue for me.
I get you, man. I get you. But again, like you said, like, I mean, if we even just start to input just a tiny bit, was it of these was it younger players like for the future, just a tiny bit, like, just to give them that chance to see if they was it can actually do it. Was it on the park? I mean, you was a mention of yourself. Was it like his home was a debut? Harry Cochrane lived every young Hearts fan dream, like, was it that day? So yeah, it is something I would personally like to see a bit more of, but like I said, only time will tell. And that actually brings me aptly on to the next thing that we're going to talk about. We can do a quick like sort of reaction to it. And of course, we are talking about the Scottish Cup uh, quarterfinal draw, which obviously we got drawn to Celtic at home. So Alan, just a quick thought that was on that. Were you shocked? Were you surprised? Were you like just like blown out your socks that we drawn a old firm side in the what was the quarterfinals?
Yeah, such surprise,
Mm.
such surprise, such, shock and awe of the fact that we've been drawn against Celtic. Almost as predictable as Celtic and Rangers not getting drawn together. I think there's a wee, maybe some warm balls in that wee bowl there, as there usually is. But yeah, it's like I said, I've kind of, obviously the draw was a couple of days ago when we were recording this, or it was yesterday or the day before anyway, and I'm not really all that bothered about it anymore.
No.
I was at the time. I was just kind of like, fuck's sake, here we go again, Celtic, what we're gonna do. But as time's kind of gone on and I've kind of thought about it, it's typical. Look at all the lower league teams that are still in it. Look at the championship sides that are in it. And I'm sitting here going, give us Falkirk at home. Give us a draw that we've got a chance of getting to Hampden.
Rafe, Air, like fucking anybody.
Aye, exactly. And yet we draw Celtic. But as I say, having had time to kind of think about it, it's Tynecastle. Chances are it'll be. I'm sure there's rugby on the Saturday. I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me. But there's rugby on one of the 2 days
Right.
over that weekend, and Scotland are at home, so they'll be at Murrayfield, obviously. So we won't be playing that day. It'll either be 12:30 or 5:30 kickoff. If it's 12:30, it'll probably be BBC or whatever.
Mm.
If it's the 5:30, it'll be the Viaplay game. I've got a very, very sneaking suspicion it's going to be a Sunday lunchtime
Oh
because,
yeah, of course it will be.
yeah, policing for that would be a lot better and a lot
Mm.
easier than 5:30 on a Sunday evening. Um, but yeah, look, and you said it, and I'm not going to say it because you'll probably say it when I stop rambling. Um, it's one of those games. It's a one-off tie. Listen, we've said it so many times. These are games that we seem to, in as much as we bottle it when we play Rangers at home, we seem to raise it a little bit when we play Celtic, and I don't know
Mm.
why that is. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not on any sort of routes that we don't want to talk about. But yeah, at the end of the you have to play them. You have to play them at some
Yeah.
point, don't you? And again, I'd rather play them at Tiny rather than Hampden. Put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. No, like I mean, I think the like one of the things that gives me like a little bit more hope, like yeah, granted VAR was a massive like sort of was a factor when we played them last at home, and I believe was it VAR isn't involved in the Scottish Cup, like is that right?
I'm not sure because I know in the last round they had it in some grounds, but I
But
don't
they
know if
didn't
it was
like in others,
on
right?
or yeah, I have no idea to be quite
Right,
honest with you.
right. Well, we're good. Regardless of if it is the was a like or not, like obviously the last score was 4-3, and we went pretty much like sort of toe with them, like on that game, and like again as well, like I mean you'll obviously have a section of Hearts fans saying, "Yeah, just go at them, just go like blah blah blah," and then you'll have the other side just saying, "Yeah, just put 10 fucking guys behind the fucking ball." So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. All obviously, like as well, can was it considering the result and the per was a performance as well like against was it Rangers as well. So I guess like was a weekend end like sort of like was it on this was a topic? Do you think we got any chance at all, Alan?
Slight chance, slight chance. I think that again, just briefly, before we move on to the next thing, the thing that annoys me the most about it, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but I know obviously in cup competitions you get more allocations. So I have a
Mm,
sneaking suspicion that we're going to have to give them the whole of the Roseburn stand, which I really hope we
yeah.
don't. I really hope we don't, but I've got a feeling that with the way the allocations work in the cup competitions, we're going to have to. But yeah, just lots of bleach will be on the seats the next day. That's for sure.
I'll be fucking there front and center. And yeah, Alan, this kind of brings us on, was it to the last wee bit of the podcast. So, obviously, as we mentioned at the start, our next game is at home again, where we face Motherwell on Sunday, which I believe is another glorious 12 o'clock kickoff. So I'm sure that most fans will be happy with that. What's your thoughts on that game, man? Because obviously, we sort of was mentioned it off screen as well. They have a new caretaker manager. Of his last name, as I can remember, as was it Kettle? So that surely must give their fans a lot of confidence. Obviously they are sitting joint was at the bottom with Dundee United. So in terms of their perspective, do you think that we're going to see much of a reaction from them, or do you think was it the case of was it we're at home, we're at with a Gorgie, and it could be an easy 3 points?
Well, you know my preference for a Motherwell game.
Oh, hence why I
Always a
didn't
fan.
want to get in with it to that too much, Alan.
Always a fan. Aye, yeah, it's one of those things like Stephen Hamill got sacked after the last game. I think it had been coming for a while. You know, the fans were protesting outside the stadium, outside the training ground with like banners and stuff. And there's a lot of unrest, or there was a lot of unrest about the way they were going, because they just sort of went out of form and just started sliding down the table. There was never really any kind of signs that they were going to recover. So Stevie Hamill obviously paid the price, as managers do, got sacked. And yeah, like you said, the caretaker manager, Stuart Kettlewell, was it? I'm sure he was at Ross County. I'm sure he was at.
Sorry.
Shit, I can't say it either. I'm sure he was at Ross County.
That'll be his head exploding. Maybe about 5 fucking the goals past
him. when Shanklin rattles in a hat trick of penalties. Anyway, it was Kettlewell that got the job on the caretaker basis, but I think he's not ruling out taking it permanently, but obviously you have to impress to be able to do that. And yeah, like, you know, it's, as you say, I'm somewhere in the middle of, it should be a comfortable afternoon for us because it's Gorgie, you know, we're at home, sell out, all the rest of it. It should be comfortable. But we've said that many times about Hearts games in the past. So it's one of those, you know, team comes to Tynecastle, needs a result to turn their form around. You know, I hope for my personal feelings towards a certain side from Lanarkshire, that we absolutely rattle them, because I would very much enjoy that. However, yeah, it's not going to be easy. Players will obviously want to prove a point as well. But yeah, I'd back us to get the 3 points, because you know we're full of confidence, and hopefully, you know, we can rattle in a few goals.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, sir. I think I do agree with yourself as well. Like, obviously, you know, if any team needs some sort of result, was it coincidentally they always seem to play like against us at home. But nonetheless, though, I think I do side with you, mate. Like, I do think it'll be a marginally comfortable win. I'm not saying we'll strike by 3, 4, 5, like, or will the goals against them, but I do think we'll win. And on that note, sir, would you like to give a score prediction, please?
2-0 to the Hearts.
2-0. It's a good one. I'll go for a fucking hell. I'm such a hypocrite. Fucking let's go 4-0. Fuck it. Why not? Fuck it.
We're not gonna rattle. We're not gonna rattle 4 or 5 goals past them.
We're gonna rattle 4-0. 4-0. Like, I promise you now. You heard it here first. And on that note as well, guys, we would love to hear what your score was the predictions will be as well for the Motherwell game. What are your thoughts on the academy players being let go as well? And yeah, so I think that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode of the Sense Abidjan was a podcast for all things Heart. of Owen. We do hope you have enjoyed. And once again as well, if you're unsubscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. 300 subscribers before the way. Please make our year. And if you want to get in the contact with us via our socials as well, all links will be in the description. So as always as well, for all the fans that were going through to Gorgie on a Sunday, we do hope you have a great one. And from myself and Alan, we will see you in the next one. Yo, let's start that again. I'll take care. Bye bye for now. Jesus fuck, like let's get that edited to fuck.